Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Rev.Judy Pando. Reverend Bonnie Rose, our beautiful senior minister, is off in India this week, and we wish her well and know that she's going to come back inspired with lots of stories to tell us. And so staying in that space of openness, of graciousness, of gratitude and inspiration, we listen to the words of our sacred reading.
Pause for Prayer by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As death threats intensified near the end of his life, Dr. King was sitting at the kitchen table thinking of quitting. Instead, he paused for prayer. Lord, I'm down here trying to do what's right. I think I'm right. But Lord, I must confess that I'm weak now. I'm faltering. I'm losing my courage. I am afraid. I am at the end of my powers. I have nothing left. And I have come to the point where I can't face it alone. And he goes on to say, I could hear the quiet assurance of an inner voice saying, Martin Luther, stand up for righteousness. Stand up for justice. Stand up for truth. And lo, I will be with you even unto the end of the world.
And so it is. And so let us remember who we are, just as Martin Luther King remembered who he was and what he stood for. So from this place of remembering who we are and what we are and why we're here, let us join together in song, I am remembering who I am. And so staying in this space of remembering who we are, of remembering that we are love and loved, that we are here for divine purpose. This beautiful silence is just so delicious. I hate to almost break it, but I will. Let's return now to the open-eyed state and bring all of that love and all of that peace and all of that joy and all of that inspiration with us. Being with what is, as it is, and so it is.
If ever I was called to lead the masses, what kind of revolution would I lead? Before I change the world and take some action, I'd have to change the world inside of me. Now everyone has got their own opinions on how to rearrange the other woman and man. But if we see the things we have in common, perhaps we'd drop our fists and lend a hand. 'Cause just like Martin, we have a dream. And just like Gandhi, we want peace. Like Mother Teresa, we want love. God grant us courage to rise above. Many dreamers paved the way before us, and yet it seems that we have just begun. If we could look beyond into the future, tell me, what would the people say that we have done? 'Cause just like Martin, we have a dream, and just like Gandhi, we want peace. Like Mother Teresa, we want love. God grant us courage to rise above. The key to our future is within our hands. Let's join together in every land, 'cause just like Martin, we have a dream, and just like Gandhi, we want peace. Like Mother Teresa, we want love. God grant us courage to rise above. Just like Martin, we have a dream, and just like Gandhi, we want peace. Like Mother Teresa, we want love. God grant us courage to rise, to rise, to rise above. God grant us courage to rise above. Oh, yes. Rise above.
I think I need a minute. Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. I have a confession to make. I have been procrastinating this talk. I knew I was going to be given this talk today, and I postponed it because what I was writing about moved me so much I knew I was going to cry. And then I knew Tina was going to be here, and I knew I was going to cry again. And then Maggie and I were sitting there laughing, saying, I'm sure glad we put on our eye makeup today. So let's breathe into all that love, all that inspiration that we've already received, and give great thanks for it. And take our moment and shed our tears if we need to, because tears are sacred things. Now for a complete shift. Have any of you ever heard of Good Riddance Day? Good Riddance Day is an event that is held in New York City at the end of December. It was held on December 28th this year. And the organizers invite people to come to Times Square, where they have set up huge industrial strength shredders. And they invite you to write down everything that, all your grievances, any relationship woes, any painful memories that you might have experienced during the year. And then you take them and you put them into these shredders and they turn into pulp. They turn into nothingness. I understand that they have a sledgehammer there if you need a little more emotional release. I really love that idea of Good Riddance Day. I love the idea that we can release anything that no longer serves us in our life. I think it goes well with our science of mind philosophy. I suspect Dr. Martin Luther King would approve too. Get rid of the old and bring in new. There's almost something irresistible about out with the old and in with the new. They call it Shred It and Forget It Day. Sometimes we need to say good riddance to the pain and hurt of the past. To do that, we have to have courage. We have to say farewell to bitterness and to anger. Dr. Ernest Holmes would approve of this day too, I'm sure. And I have a reading from the Science of Mind magazine this month, where he says, since we are entering a new year, it would be well for us to consider what we are carrying into the new year that doesn't belong. Have we really freed ourselves from the burdens and cares of yesterday, or are we carrying them like dead things into tomorrow? Now, yesterday has forever passed, and tomorrow will forever elude us. Today is the only day in which we can really live. It is the habit of many to make great resolutions on New Year's Day, and it's a good thing to set an ideal before the mind. How would it be if we were to start the new year with just one simple resolution? Try to live as though the kingdom of God were at hand. To try to believe that this physical body is daily being renewed, that the circumstances and situations in our lives are governed by a supreme intelligence which knows what to do, how to do it, and is willing to do it. Yeah. So my reason for bringing up Good Riddance Day, aside from the fact that it's a great talk title, is that when Reverend Bonnie asked me to talk a few weeks ago, my first thought was, I have absolutely nothing to say to these people. I mean, you guys come here every Sunday and listen to all this wonderful inspiration. What could I possibly add? Now, that's going on my list of things to get rid of. Say, good riddance to. That idea is, anybody who knows me knows I have plenty to say. But usually when I think about talking in front of a group this size, it's at a memorial service. I'm a hospice chaplain and I do a fair number of memorial services, so I thought, okay, why don't I just do a memorial service? I like memorial services. I think they're heartfelt, I think they're love-filled, I think they're heart-centered. Yeah, I really like memorial services. I forgot what I was going to say. Huh? Thank you. That's exactly where I'm going. I'm going to do a memorial service for the year 2017. And when I mentioned that to a few people that I know, they said, oh, good riddance to that year. Oh, hated that year. It was a horrible year. I'm glad that it's gone. Now, nobody has ever said that to me when I prepared a memorial service before. No. We look for the good in the person who has passed. We look for those qualities of God that they expressed during their lifetime. Yeah. So, and memorial services are wonderful things. Like I said, they're heart-centered, they're heart-filled, and sometimes they're tearful. A lot of times they're tearful. And I know that when I am sitting with somebody in a memorial service and I have tears in my eyes, and I look at them and they have tears in their eyes, I know that we kind of smile at one another, not because we're happy, but because there's such a deep connection in those tears. Tears are sacred things, says Washington Irving. They are not the marks of weakness, but of power. They speak more eloquently than 10,000 tongues. They are messengers of overwhelming grief, of deep contrition, and unspeakable love. So I like memorial services, and I'm always privileged to take part in them. I think memorial services are a celebration of all of life. When we memorialize a person, we celebrate all that they are. We celebrate the God qualities, as I said before. We also celebrate their quirkiness and the funny things that they did over the years. So laughter is also a part of a memorial service. And I get it. I completely get it. 2017 was a difficult year. It was challenging in so many ways for so many of us. It was a stressful year. There were tropical storms. There was a political scandal du jour. And we ended the year here in our beloved Ventura with a windstorm that was it was larger and more dramatic than I have ever seen before in my life. And it ignited an enormous fire that just made shambles out of our beloved city. And a lot of us are grieving, not only grieving the loss of property, but grieving the loss of our sense of security, the loss of our sense of safety that we had in our homes. And many of us did lose our homes. And the air quality was poor, and we all had reactions to that. It felt surreal, like we were being tested. Such an enormous tragedy. And I get it. Good riddance to all of that. Lots and lots of tears were shed last year, and I don't want to minimize or dismiss any one of them. And all of that added to our personal tragedies that could have come in any year. I mean, we all had diagnosis that we weren't expecting, a loss of a loved one, financial setback, a relationship problems. I mean, those things can happen anytime, any year, but they were magnified because they happened this year. So all that being said, the year 2017 looked pretty dismal. But having said all of that, there were good things that happened in 2017 as well. It was a tremendous learning and growing and stretching year for me in my new job as a chaplain. I mean, my heart was opened so wide and full from the work that I do in that capacity. Did you know that honeybees are making a comeback? Very good thing, a very good thing. Also, snow leopards, and my personal favorite, the giant panda. All good things. And women standing in their power. Need I say any more? And people coming together to help other people. For example, and I've got a million examples, but I only chose just a few. For example, and this is the part that makes me want to cry, but not out of sadness. So if I cry, they're tears of joy. They're tears because I'm so moved at how wonderful people really are. In Houston, boat owners mobilized and rescued families who had been flooded and stranded as a result of Hurricane Harvey. Last Sunday, I heard this, last summer in July, I heard this story on the radio. A family was in Florida, a mother and her 2 sons went to visit relatives, and the 2 boys, as boys do, ran off to play in the surf, and they got caught in a riptide. And so the mother ran in to save her children. Of course she did, who wouldn't? And then the grandmother ran in to save the mother and the 2 children, and they all got caught up in the riptide. And then all of the relatives ran in. All 6 of them were then in the riptide, and then there were 3 more people who came to try to help. And pretty soon there were 9 people in the water fighting for their lives. And 80 total strangers came together and made a human chain to reach out and rescue each and every one of those people. Total strangers came together in that way. This all happened in 2017. And when Hurricane Harvey devastated a city, it not only impacted people, but it impacted pets. And all of the shelters were overcrowded, and refused to allow any more animals. So Southwest Airlines stepped in and rescued 60 animals and put them on a plane and flew them to San Diego, where they all found new homes through the Helen Woodward Animal Shelter. And what about our own sweet hometown, our own sweet home center? Stepping up to organize donation drives, helping and praying with those of us who had suffered tragedy this year in any way. Thanks again to our own Jen Seal for her dedication to bringing this about. Thanks again to all of us who stepped up and gave generously of our time, our talent, and our treasure. Thanks to the firefighters, to the police who work so tirelessly to save our homes and our lives, for the nurses in the organization that I work for, who went out even when storms were raging, even when a firestorm was raging, and took care of their patients and made sure that they were all safe. They placed themselves in harm's way to make sure that others were taken care of. I am so blessed to be a part of that organization. Grateful to see the Ventura Strong signs all over town. Grateful for the thank yous to the helpers, to all of the helpers. Because of this disaster that hit my home, I felt fear and sadness, sure. But I also felt gratitude and empathy and love and hope for the future. Just like a memorial service. The fullness of life has been expressed through all the horrible, terrible, awful, and wonderful days of 2017. I have heard it said that disaster brings out the best in us. We often come together when tragedy strikes. Tragedy can build character. It can bring up compassion and kindness. It can teach us, it can show us, it can demonstrate how many people really care and how deeply they care for one another. As simplistic as it sounds, we can go in 2 directions when tragedy strikes, into despair or into hope, into a state of being that moves us forward and brings about the best in us. God's dream is that you and I and all of us will realize that we are family, that we are made for togetherness, for goodness, and for compassion. Desmond Tutu said that. It kind of makes me sad to think that it takes a tragedy to bring us together, to bring about this kind of togetherness, this kind of kindness and compassion. Good riddance to that thinking. My hope for the year 2008 is that we carry the good forward with us, the gratitude, the compassion, the kindness that we experienced in 2007, that it becomes automatic in our day-to-day activities, that we stay resolute in our spiritual practices, and that we continue to care and support one another without having to be reminded in such a dramatic way. And so it is that I end this passage with a reading from my personal mystical source, Facebook, which I think was posted by Chris. The old year is worn and tired. Time now to kiss it goodbye. Take with you its wisdom, the authority and power of all you have learned. Remember the past year with love, but let it go of its despair. Live the year that lies ahead with fresh energy and hope. Be strong, have courage. It's time for something new. And so it is. Thank you. Let's anchor all of that now in prayer. So we turn within, staying in that heart space, staying in open space that knows that the power and presence of God is right here, right now. There is but one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life right now. That life is the life of each and every one of us here in this beautiful center, in this beautiful Ventura, and it is the life of everyone, everywhere. And so I set an intention to see that perfect life of God in everyone with whom I encounter. I set my intention for this year to carry forward with me only the good, the compassion, the love, the kindness, the joy, and even the tears. I will never forget the year 2017. It is embedded in my memory, and I will call upon all that I have learned when I face other challenging or stressful situations. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for giving us what we needed to come together. And I set another intention to know that God is always with me and that I don't need these reminders to act in a compassionate, loving, kind way, and that we are all family. And so with a grateful heart, with a heart that's filled with love and remembering, I release this word into the mystery that is the law. And we anchor that together by saying, and so it is.
Well, there's a saying, love conquers all, so I surrender before I fall. No need to fight, I answer the call of destiny. All the pain and all of the tears, all the shame and all of the fears, suddenly they just disappear the moment I say yes. So I'm gonna say yes, yes, oh yes to love. I'm gonna say yes, going to say one more thing. Because you can't give to someone else until you start to love yourself. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes to love. Ooh, are you going to say yes? I know you're going to say yes. Yeah, yes to love. Ooh, you can do what you want to. You can be what you want to be when you say yes to love. Oh, so I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. What? Let's say yes. 2018. Let's say yes.